At the just-wrapped-up Star Wars Celebration Day, Kathleen Kennedy, the figure responsible for what I would call the necrophilia age of Star Wars, announced 3 new film projects, with one set to feature the return of Rey Skywalker.
I swear to God, if they say we're doing a new trilogy, Rey's the main character, it'll be like, oh God.
You motherfuckers are the cause of my suffering!
Disney is doubling down on its singularly unappealing and bland lead from the underwhelming and divisive sequel trilogy, the equivalent of bringing back G4 TV and getting Frosk to helmet. After Disney inflicted The Rise of Skywalker on the public, a hastily contrived mishmash of Star Wars stuff in which J.J. Abrams thrown the hot potato of the film in his lap after the continuity-disrupting debacle of The Last Jedi. Upped the ante to ludicrous proportions with hundreds of Star Destroyers all equipped with Death Star cannons and the resurrection of Palpatine, in an intellectual property equivalent of Weekend at Bernie's. Even Daisy Ridley, after The Rise of Skywalker slumped to a miserable second weekend drop, initially said she would be unlikely to reprise her role after that film. Her reservation stemmed largely from the idea the films would grow in scope and imagination. The beautiful thing is, it's this wonderful, huge universe with all of these stories that have yet to be told. I think there's a lot of cool things to be made before any potential revisit. Well, never underestimate your willingness to overestimate Disney. Disney will never be financially bankrupt, but this Star Wars celebration and new film details really emphasize the reality that the entertainment behemoth has become creatively bankrupt. After the last year or so of streaming hot piles of shit, I for one have long since given up on hope for any Star Wars project.
Fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Secondly, Daisy Ridley might have envisaged things a little differently post-Star Wars. In 2021, Ridley co-starred in the film Chaos Walking, a film delayed due to poor test screenings that followed the film's reshoots. It received negative reviews and was a box office flop. She also made an appearance in Judd Apatow's 2022 movie The Bubble as Kate, a horny AI. The film received negative reviews. On the face of it, bringing back Rey for a new film seems to go against prevailing wisdom and public sentiment toward a character that just didn't fire the imagination of the fanbase. The reason Rey is so bland is because at her core, she is really just the least imaginative thing possible, a 50-50 blend of the already beloved characters of Luke and Leia. She has the raw, parochial, grew up in the middle of nowhere on a desert planet elements of Luke, as well as his latent, yet-to-be-discovered and harnessed powers, and the plucky, independent characteristics of Leia, all just kind of mushed together into a spiritless, unengaging composite, without the interesting flaws of Luke, being naive and second-guessing his own choices and potential, or Princess Leia's occasional obstinacy and Han's habitual teasing and chiding about her privileged and royal background, as well as her very human emotional vulnerability with her divided feelings when it comes to Han. It also seems like a dubious idea financially and in terms of getting bums on seats. Your main character is a principal draw for people to become invested in your movie, and there is a poor precedent, especially given where we left off. Surely bringing back Rey is a conservative and lackluster move, likely to generate neither enthusiasm, buzz, or speculation, and on balance would be better avoided. Let's go back to the tape. If we adjust to account for ticket price inflation, Rise of Skywalker had 8 other Star Wars properties rank ahead of it, including Rogue One and 2 of the much maligned Star Wars prequels. There are plenty of reasons Rise of Skywalker dipped so far down from the first 2 Star Wars sequels on opening weekend, but the simplest reason is that by then the franchise was no longer special. Heading into its second weekend, Rise of Skywalker joined the 100 Million Losers Club, being a film earning 100 million less on its second weekend than its opening weekend. By its fourth weekend, Rise of Skywalker hit rock bottom, experiencing the worst fourth weekend decline of any movie to ever make at least 175 million on opening weekend. So by the end of the sequel trilogy, the fanbase and the wider public were done with it. They hadn't connected on any meaningful level with the story or the principal characters, and your main character has to bear the biggest share of the responsibility for that. Filoni's entry in this new trio of films will focus on the escalating war between the Imperial Remnant and the fledgling New Republic. It will also serve as a culmination event for The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. The impression seems to be that this decision was made a year or so ago, when The Mandalorian, with the appearances from Ahsoka, still had the glint and gleam of invigoration for the franchise. It probably seemed then that greenlighting a film would be a savvy idea that would ride the wave of teeming goodwill. I doubt they could have imagined that the third season of The Mandalorian would fizzle out with an embarrassing 40% drop-off from Season 2 to Season 3. Nor would they have envisaged a general baffled backlash to the appearance of a gargantuan recording artist known for playing the flute while cavorting on stage in gaudy spandex, and played out Jack Black, the pair following on from a tradition of celebrity cameos stretching back to Lionel Richie's brief appearance in The Empire Strikes Back. Among the lowlights at the Star Wars Celebration Day was a panel discussion featuring Jodie Turner-Smith, who will star in The Acolyte, which has been teased as a mystery thriller set in a prosperous and seemingly peaceful era roughly 100 years before the events of The Phantom Menace. Jodie Turner-Smith starred, a few years ago, in an AMC show about Anne Boleyn, an actual historical white woman, and despite this being glaringly incongruous, it doesn't matter in the modern world of colorblind casting. She disgraced the stage to expound upon the stunning awesomeness of her character.
So my character, she's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader. Yes.
Then frame her sentiments in relation to the one enemy more malicious and malign than the dark side of the Force itself.
In a very woman-centered world, which I was very excited to kind of be that, because I feel like Star Wars is very patriarchal.
Then she trailed off into an even wider, banal reflection on the concept of adversity itself.
And she's really sort of going through a struggle, because that's Star Wars, right? We're going through a struggle.
The only faint twinkle of light in all of this is the film from Logan director James Mangold, who would be depicting the first Jedi in a brand new era tens of thousands of years before A New Hope. I like this idea, in part because it is brave and interesting to set the story so far removed from the standard content. It could be, in fact almost demands, a mass of new concepts, societies, aesthetics. But remember, this is Disney. So no matter how low you set your expectations, there'll always be a way to subvert them.